Welcome to Stories That Stay, How Stories of Identity Shape Us. This is a podcast where healing happens at the intersection of art, science, and storytelling. I'm Shamm Petros, a therapist, learning strategist, refugee, and reluctant creative.
And I'm Dwight Dunston, a facilitator, educator, artist, and proud uncle. Stories That Stay podcast is a project of Lion Story.
Dwight and I have spent the last 5 years training thousands of people to confront identity-based stress and transform those stories into tools for healing and change at home, in the office, online, but mostly within themselves.
Whether you're an educator, organizer, artist, or someone simply trying to make sense of what you've been feeling in the world around you, you're in the right place.
We believe, and the research shows, that when we can feel and accurately name our emotions, we're able to heal and maybe resolve experiences in ways that will support us in the present and in future moments of stress and intensity. As we arrive with today's guests and their story, let's prepare ourselves better for the feelings, emotions, and the truths that will emerge. We invite you to take a few moments just for you here to intentionally inhale and exhale. For our listeners, we're going to provide a 45-second breathing moment with an audio reprieve. And remember to keep breathing in this moment, but throughout our episode as well.
Our guest today is Merrill Garbus. You may know Merrill as the creative force behind the music project Tune Yards. She formed the group before she even realized she was a producer. Since then, she's gone on to write and produce music for herself and others, including legends like Mavis Staples. She's also collaborated with artists like Yoko Ono and Laurie Anderson and composed for film and television, often teaming up with director Boots Riley. Merrill records much of her work with her partner, Nate Brenner. She lives in Oakland, California, where she shares life with her toddler and a very important dog. And I just have to shout out, Merrill is also a friend of one of the co-hosts, myself. Merrill, it's so poppin' to see you.
So good. And you know, I should have put in that bio and such artists as the band called Autumn.
Oh, man.
Which includes a person called Dwight Dunston.
Oh, man. That's all.
Yes,
there. The people
it's
will be
honor.
able to say that. It's such an honor. It's such an honor. And we're just so grateful, especially here in our first season, to have you here with us and bringing your stories and insights and experiences. And, you know, we have a way that we're going to roll out the opportunity for you to share and reflect on some early memories and messages. We're going to take our time, and I'm going to pass it over to Shamm to just do a little continued grounding as we arrive in this space together.
I would love to inquire, before we even start to inquire about that narrative and that experience and that memory. How are you arriving today? And did you have any feelings in particular around sharing your story today?
Why, yes.
Okay.
Why, yes. I just want to say, well, it's funny because before we started recording, I shared that I was feeling some fear and maybe even avoidance. Like I knew I was going to be in a podcast room with two people that I really respect and love, really. I don't know you yet, Shamm, but I already do. And also people who are deep, you know, and that's not, we recently released a record and I do a lot of interviews like this. And I was like, but this one is not going to be like shallow facts about where we recorded things or, you know, many can get deeper, but not with this kind of framing and invitation. You know, I'm a white person here and we're talking about difference, and I need to talk. It's very important in this moment for white people to be talking about their experiences of difference and of race. I feel that in my body.
Mm,
I feel that, like, yeah, I do feel stressed when I
mm,
think about, here, go speak about being white.
mm,
Great. That's not
mm,
first on my list, right? And I can feel it kind of in my lower belly, and I feel like a little bit of adrenaline. And then on my way walking, I dropped my kid at his preschool, and I was walking and checked Instagram, and then I'm like, and there is horror on my
mhm,
phone. And so I feel like I really need to bring that in here today. I'm so grateful that you're starting with what I am. These feel like building blocks. Like,
mhm.
let's talk about the basic building blocks of how we don't hate each other
Yeah.
and kill each other. And I would be lying if I felt like overwhelmed by the. It's kind of like the opposite of the butterfly effect, or like the evil
Mm,
butterfly effect, where like these little discomforts with difference and inability to tolerate difference and stressors, like zoomed out, maximized to this horrifying multiple genocides happening in the world. So I feel like I needed to bring that in for myself, that it's almost like it, how do I say this? It's like it intensifies even more the value of this work, and also maybe the fear around this work for
mm,
myself as a white person, that now I'm like, I'm we have not done this work enough.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's a lot of what I'm coming with today. And also just the gratitude to you, that as soon as you started talking about what this podcast is, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is good. Let's do it. Yeah.
I'm smiling, and not because the things you're saying are delightful, right? You so gracefully named your emotions, where they live in your body, messaging you're hearing from external actors, the context, messaging from the context of the time. The feelings, whatever they are, what I always appreciate is our ability to be specific and detailed, right? Because you have fear and avoidance, which I'm sure many people can relate with in this time, but then in some way you're able to gauge it and say, okay, this is not insurmountable fear,
Mm-hmm.
right? It also sits alongside with gratitude and
Mm-hmm.
knowing I can bring these things here. And that's a lot of the work, is really being able to name it, being like, all right, this is actually how I'm being impacted. And then we could talk about, I think, calibration and regulating and all the other nuances that are needed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. I want to push you a little further a bit. Is that okay?
Of
Just
course.
just with this prompt, just to make sure you get some exercise in before we ask you to reflect. Avoidance. I also heard gratitude. If there's another prominent emotion that I didn't catch, it's those three, and whichever ones are prominent for you, if you can scale them on a scale from 1 to 10, one being almost non-present, 10 being very present.
Mm. Gratitude 10. For real. For real. Gratitude 10. Fear right now, to 2.8.
Hmm.
Mm. What was the third one that I named?
Avoidance.
Avoidance. Okay, so right.
Yeah.
Yes, and just an invitation at any point, Meryl, or our listeners, you might want to rest back into your breathing. Some of our colleagues at Lion Story like to remind me that breaths are free, like we could take one of them free breaths from the shelf.
Mhm.
And so that's always available for you, Meryl, and for folks listening. And I also really appreciate, Meryl, you just bringing in, right, this something feels incomprehensible up in our brain space. And
Mhm.
we're really going to invite you, Meryl, and our guests to drop down into other parts of our knowing in our bodies other wisdoms, and you modeled this so well already, Merrill, naming the tingles, naming parts of the bodies that where you can just notice something's happening and really
Mhm.
want to focus on the heart.
For our listeners, all of us are holding our hearts or held our hearts or had our hand on our chest, at least in the last few moments.
The prompt I want to offer is one that we send over, and wherever it takes you is just right. But Merrill, what are some of the earliest memories of difference that
Mm.
you recall from your life?
The first thing that popped up when I heard that question, read that question, was from a probably, I'm going to say two or three. And when I was 2 or 3, was about body size. There was a neighbor kid, I don't remember their name, who was very thin as a toddler, and I was not. And I just remember looking at my leg and looking at their leg and equating that with some value system. I was bad, they were good. I don't know where I got that. So that to me is the mystery, because it's noticing a difference. But then I do remember thinking, I don't want my leg to be like this. This is not right.
Mm.
And so that was kind of mind blowing to say, in somewhere in there, I got this messaging. I feel like that, body size and understanding that there are all these subconscious. I mean, that was very, very, very young, right? So like,
Mhm.
I have a 3-year-old, and people keep saying like, don't worry, he won't remember this.
Yeah.
Don't worry, that really, that was really hard, but don't worry, he won't remember this. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. I don't, or at least it's not definitely true. And that we need to understand, and I'm understanding how much it's in the air we breathe. So much is in the air we breathe. So I mean, we can stop there because that was my first memory of difference. But I want to say that immediately I went to like the really when I understood difference in race, in class, was later on, but in a similar scenario of my life as a kid growing up in the suburbs of New York. I mostly grew up in Connecticut. My dad grew up in the Bronx, and my his parents were in the Bronx. So we would do the back and forth to the Bronx a lot. And that was my first like literally up here in Connecticut, it's green and white. The
Mhm.
leaves are green. And
Mhm.
for like the absolute majority of my life, there were only white kids in my classes. And then when we would visit my grandparents, the people of color that I would see were frankly, in the 80s on the street, really.
Mhm.
Like we would drive in and we would be parking our car, and I would be looking out the window and going like, whoa, this is really different from where I'm coming from.
Mhm.
So this sense again of this is, I mean, I appreciate this is very, very, very early, that what I was seeing on the street, I was making some judgment about. And the earliest memory probably is someone peeing outside on the sidewalk, right? Like something that never happened where we were growing up. But there was a sense of, I would say, danger going into the big city and seeing things that we didn't normally see in our town. And then I think growing up with this sense of the city is a nitty gritty place that my dad really tried to escape from, that this was a place that we had escaped from.
Mm.
That's a lot. So I'll leave it there.
Mhm. Curious how your breathing is right now after sharing that.
It's a little shallower.
So, right. So,
It's a little shallower and in my chest. Yeah.
mm-hmm. And, and good noticing. And I want to just invite you and our listeners to take a breath in and out. Just continue to be mindful of breath and these follow-up questions, because what you have given us, Merrill, in our line of work, we're not here to ascribe value to it. This is literally what you remember, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
question,
Mm-hmm.
for so many reasons, has been worded the way it has been to really just open up our guests to whatever comes to them.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Stevenson and the work at Lion Story, we teach these skills, and I'm going to move you through a few questions in just a moment to continue to just be with your story. And so at any point you can bring in more of the story, or if things are coming to you, you might find that you know, it feels important to name or share, or you're just like, wow, I can't remember. I can't believe I remember that. All of that's welcome here. So first, to name any feelings that come up, and just remembering, retelling some of the earliest memories of difference, and then to calculate them once again on that scale from 1 to 10 in terms of intensity, where those feelings would go on a scale.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the feelings coming up, and if you could scale them for us?
Well, what is it? It's this feeling of, I don't know if there's a naming of this feeling where you feel generations entering the room and you're like, wow, we are cycling in here through, I'm cycling through my generational stuff, you know, and I really feel them here.
Probably is a word for it, but I bet
Yeah.
it's not in English.
I agree. Not English.
That is not in English.
Right, we got to make one
I'm on
up.
a
We got to
mission,
make
yeah.
one up. We've been trying to run away from ancestors and history, all you know. So we don't want to
Oh, yes.
Where's
make
it
up a
at?
word.
No, probably no colonial language
Right.
contains.
No. No.
It's like, what was here before?
Yeah, thinking before and after at once. Yeah.
Yeah, Meryl, I just want to reflect back. We heard sort of these two different time stamps of shame, right? The shame at a 4 for this in like the younger at that age, the younger age, the shame 6, 7 as an adult, the sadness at a 6, and this curiosity at like a 7 or 8. And you've begun to do this. The second question is around just locating where these feelings live somatically. So if, as you notice, as you continue to breathe into these feelings, where are they showing up for you physically? Do you notice any specific places the tingling is, or places of release, places of tension, just parts of your body that are just speaking as well, along with these
Yeah.
emotions?
Yeah. Would you believe it? My ass. I've never felt that before. Tingling in my butt.
Okay.
There you go. But maybe that's, you know,
Ancestral. I don't know.
ancestral. There were definitely some good butts. There's some good butts in my DNA. But also maybe groundedness. I do want to thank you all and all of you who are practitioners of this work, because this is different in some ways, but this is not my first go around of doing this kind of work. And I want to just shout out for practice. Like these have been at 9s and 10s, like shame at 9 and shame at 10 and fear at 9 and fear at 10. It's been so for all of you out there who maybe are in those ranges of that level of stress, I just want to say, thank God for practice, and thank God for coming back and back and back.
You're so on brand with the practice. The practice is key.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Yeah, right. And that's something that I forget when I get overwhelmed, is that I have to come back to this each and every day of my life. So I will say I still feel there's a little hesitancy in my throat. Like I have a little kind of frog in my throat and a little tension in my sternum. Yeah. So those are still there. And that one I worked through with other white musicians, actually. So that was a very interesting practice of having that to work through together with other white bodied folks, and then to have that specifically around music and how it shows up as artists. Yeah.
The last question I want to ask, and then I'm going to just invite Shamm in to offer some more questions, curiosity. But Merrill, you've so beautifully and powerfully got to name some of the feelings and put them on a scale. You've brought some courageous noticing and awareness to your body and where some of those feelings show up physically. And we now want to invite in sort of the communication, things you're saying to yourself as you were, or were saying to yourself as you were retelling the story, things that are coming to mind now, and
Mm.
also any images that are also coming because you had this beautiful image come to you about the Toyota 4Runner, Janet Jackson, right? Rhythm Nation. So as you just sit with the stories you shared, any other images or self-talk
Mm.
coming to you?
Uh, Maybe the word journey, just that this my my 46-year-old self is saying that this understanding and unpacking of these images and stories is a journey. And I know I've gotten trapped in the cycle of wanting the correct answer. Like, how do I show up correct? How do I say the right thing? How do I even revise the story? Like, how do I revise a story, which is ridiculous, but a very old childhood story, and revise it so that with this kind of interpretation as someone in their 40s. And I don't want to do that. I want to
Mm-hmm.
keep the story as it is. That seems like the really helpful information. And what I'm finding I need to do in order to just keep the story, share the story with you as is without revision or eliminating the things that I feel less comfortable about,
Mm-hmm.
is to situate myself in a journey, and even my whole lineage as a journey, that my dad growing up in the Bronx really wanted out, and I have been very interested in my choice to go into a city and choose cities as the places that I'm interested in living in. And that when I started an awareness, my awareness of whiteness, it was probably then, right? Like that there is this awareness of myself being different. And I think most of that difference in the beginning of that journey was about other people, because I'm growing up in a very white town. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, these people in the Bronx are different versus, I'm a thing. Why is this a thing? Why is this
Mm-hmm.
happening? Why are there only white people here? That kind of questioning didn't come until later. But to let myself to forgive myself that journey, to understand that this is my life, and it's not about getting right, like a switch I can turn on.
Mm-hmm.
It's a true unlearning of so many things, or redefining my, even a thing like the story I heard. Why do we live in this town? Where we were Jewish in that town, that was also different. There were maybe two or three Jewish families in that town. So there was also, and my parents were musicians. That wasn't normal, quote unquote normal. And
Mm-hmm.
our family gatherings were loud and there was yelling, and that wasn't normal in this buttoned up, almost aristocratic town that we lived in. In other words, I was on my own journey around difference, and this question of like, why do we live in this town? Because of the schools and this understanding of like this, then later on I would read about, that justification for this
Mm-hmm.
concentration of whiteness being around school systems.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Without getting too too cerebral about it all. Just to say that, like, talking to little Merrill and being like, you don't understand yet all that you will someday understand. And in fact, at 46, you're also not going to understand, but you're going to be in a process of not just understanding, but honestly, like, more love. Like that. I'm so honored to be in conversation around race, around whiteness as a white person. That didn't have to be a thing that, it's not always that way. I'm grateful for it.
I feel like I'm in process. I know we're processing you, but I'm in the process processing you.
Give it to me. Give it to me.
You're almost majestical with it, right? Like, we asked around self-talk, these images, because there's a way our body naturally will respond to stress, and we start taking care of ourselves, if we have the tools to regulate, to recalibrate. Your messaging, it for me feels so grounding. Like I feel it in my core, right? Like it's a process, it's a journey. And you've even have some corrective self-talk that you address with this affirming self-talk. Like, how do I, like, we've been cerebral and I love it, but how do I show up correctly, you know? And how do I say the right thing? And even the omission, if you will, of be like, there's moments I want to revise the story, but no, I want the information. I want the data.
Mm-hmm.
And you're seeing, I think, applauding just your ability to see the data points, experience it, but also see them as data points, right? Like from what's happening in your body to the language and expanding your story. Because once you introduce your family members, and it's quickly, but I keep thinking about the generations that responded to horror, right?
Mm-hmm.
And curious about what did they do.
Yeah.
And now we're responding to our version of horror.
Yeah.
And how that's distinct. That's a strong word and it's an accurate word. It's also different than fear, which you also had, right? Also different than shame. So I'm applauding your
Mm.
ability to really be present. And whatever that word is that we don't know yet, that says you're bringing in the past and the future.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I assume the skill did not come easily. I'm sure you worked hard. Like I had to do this.
Yeah, we're all right. I know we're all working hard. That much I know.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah. I like to say that, but sometimes I'm like, some people not working hard enough in this world. I was like, we all need grace. Not all of us.
Thank you. Okay, yes, I will claim I've done some hard work.
You've done some hard work.
Well, thank you. And life, if I may say, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I didn't, these questions got me to a point of not wanting to be alive on the planet. So I have to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I hear it. It seems sometimes so small. I think the most beautiful thing you're doing is noticing. I think a lot of us dissociate, avoid, freeze, whatever iteration or degree of the practice, the ability to notice and bear witness. Sometimes I feel like it's,
Yeah.
that's my fight. And it's a strong fight, it's a valiant fight, because these stories won't be forgotten. Yeah. I really,
Yeah.
I see the work, maybe if it's just sitting and feeling our bums and our guts, but it's because people that don't, but a lot of these other things exist.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing.
I'm noticing we're all kind of doing our wiggles, listeners. I wiggled. Really had my hand on my heart and my Black Panther for most of this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we talked about that when we were making music together, Dwight, right? Open, it's like a portal opens. You have to
Mhm.
responsibly close the portal.
Yeah.
Well, as we do our due diligence to move with care, and sometimes these portals, right, we close them up as best as we can, and something was like, well, actually, I got a little bit more to tell you. You didn't get this thing, but as we think about really just being with all of the feelings and emotions and somatic responses from this prompt, right? Earliest memories of difference, and just really tended to present day Meryl, but also you beautifully got to give some messages to young Meryl as well, which I imagine is also a part of some closing the portal well, just really
Mm.
extending some grace backwards in time and love and care. And are there any other messages that want to go into that portal, either backwards in time, Meryl, or maybe even future in time? You even named at 46,
Yeah.
I'm still learning, right? Is there,
Mm-hmm.
if you had to speak into the portal with, maybe it's a prayer, maybe it's words of wisdom, maybe it's an offering, maybe it's just, a
Mm-hmm.
mantra. And we also like to ask guests too, if you had to put your story, what you shared today, in a hashtag or a headline, what would it be? If that comes to you as well, we welcome that. But yeah, I guess the first question is, what would feel good for closing the portal well for you?
Wow, I don't know. That might open up more portals. Let's
Mm-hmm.
see. Well, hashtag it's a process. It's a journey.
Great. That's real. It's a
Yeah.
journey. It's a process.
It's a journey, it's a process. Something that I mean is interesting talking to future Meryl. And Shamm, you mentioned the work being valiant, and I want to put that in the ear of a future Meryl of
Mm-hmm.
there's so people talk about hope a lot these days, or hopelessness a lot, and I feel like hopeless, it's useless, and I feel if I may, I think that hope is like a white construction. I'm working on that theory, and I will someday back it up with some points. And what I've chosen to value instead this year is two things: wonder and a will to live. What if I
Mm,
don't need hope? What do I need? I need wonder and I need a will to live. And that, to me, I clarified that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
What I feel hopelessness around is the entrapments of whiteness, really. And I find that what I mean by that is that the systems are so ingrained that I forget that the diligent and valiant work is worth it. And it's not about, you know, like in one of our songs, I say, not in my lifetime. I know, not in my lifetime. It's not about what I even see in my lifetime, that I want to tell future Meryl, like, you like keep working
Mm-hmm.
and avoiding the entrapments of perfectionism and getting it right and all that,
mm,
to say like that, like I love that word valiant. Like it's brave and courageous work that is worth it in and of itself. And it doesn't mean that what I think about is like my neighborhood, how do I solve being a white family in this neighborhood that is rapidly gentrifying, and my part in it, and where's my community, and how do I form community? How do I be part of community? How do I not? All these things that are big, big systems, right? And I can get hopeless about what's my little human flawed part in that. But I just want to tell future Meryl, like, you are going to see things that you never thought possible. I want that. Like you in your lifetime will see things you never thought possible. This conversation that we're having, 20 years ago, this was not possible for me. Just the three of us having this conversation. And I want to just put, so what's 20 years from now? So again, the wonder, I want to leave that room for, I don't know. And then it doesn't mean I stop ever, That's my message. You hear me, future Merrill?
Me, Merrill.
I hope we keep the echo.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, Merrill, for just a beautiful, grounded, tender conversation, exploration. We have neared the end of our time, and we started by asking how you were feeling coming in, just telling some stories. How are you here at the end? Any feelings that you
I have
noticed?
this tingle, I can't stop smiling kind of glow. I feel like tingles around my face. I'm just, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just so, I'm so grateful. I know the grateful word gets used a lot, but whoa, you all, for doing this work, for being in the places of your understanding that you can know the value of these building blocks and putting this out for people. Wow. I applaud, like you said, Shamm, I applaud you. So, yes, avidly.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Stories That Stay. How stories of identity shape us. This podcast is a project of Lion Story. To learn more about Lion Story and our work, visit lionstory.org. This episode was produced and edited by Peterson Toscano. Our music comes from epidemicsound.com. Music during our mindful moment comes from Dwight Dunston. For our listeners, know that we are here to help you build the real courage, practical language, and skills to navigate discomfort with clarity and compassion, starting with yourself. If you found value in today's episode, please consider leaving a review, subscribing, or sharing this with someone who needs it. Your support helps us grow our healing community with practical learning resources and training opportunities for individuals and communities that need these tools and skills.
Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep telling your story. And remember, you are your most important listener. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.